Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Mel from MelDidItHerself, and I'm a social service worker turned furniture refinisher, DIYer, small business owner, and content creator. I've learned everything I know about these industries thanks to people who shared their knowledge on the internet. So I'm paying it forward by bringing you my tips, lessons learned, and sharing my journey in this space with you. So thank you so much for being here, being curious, and being a lifelong learner like me. Let's hop into it. What is up, my friends and fellow busy bees? I hope your day is going well. I'm doing fabulous, and actually, when this episode airs, I will be en route to the States for an extended long weekend with a bunch of friends to spend some time in Maine. So I am very much looking forward to that, and for just a change of scenery and some forced time off with some great people. And I am currently, as I record this, puggy sitting a little doggo. So if you hear any weird grunts, heavy breathing, snoring, or any other unusual sounds, that would be Bane. If you know pugs, you know. And so, one thing that we discussed in episode 8 of the podcast was deciding whether or not offering custom work in your furniture painting and refinishing business is the right move for you. And I went over some pros and cons from my perspective. To complement that and take it one step further for those who are interested in doing it or maybe already do currently do it, today's episode will be talking about how to prepare for in-home consultations with your custom clients and some tips on how to structure your custom work to make your life, hopefully, a little bit easier and more organized. Because I'm all about helping you stay focused, on track, and organized in your furniture refinishing business. And because of that, I also really want you to get there. Get to the point of officially starting that business that you've been putting off because you think there's too much research that you still have to do or things you need to learn before you do it. And let's get real. That's just your way of procrastinating. And that's fine, because I've got you covered with a free guide and checklist that I put together to help you start your own official furniture painting and refinishing business. Head to the link in the show notes of this episode to download yours now, and I promise you'll be set to start getting things officially set up, making money, and being your own boss. Trust me when I say it's the best. Alright, so not everyone offers in-home consultations. I don't typically do them, but I have in the past. And if you're someone that has your first one coming up but are feeling a little bit lost and don't really know what to do or what to bring or how to prepare, this episode is for you. I am all about setting up systems and streamlining things as much as possible in my business to save me time, energy, and brain power whenever possible so that I can free up my time in my day to either get more other things accomplished or just sit back and relax and get to live my life and enjoy having the freedom to do so. So one thing that I've implemented for all custom projects is that I have a sort of questionnaire / intake form that I've put together in Google Forms that I ask all people interested in a custom project to complete. This is a huge time saver because historically I would be chatting back and forth with people who were interested in having a project done, and I'd be asking them all of the details, one message at a time, and going back and forth, and inevitably something might get missed, or I might finally have enough information to give them an informed estimate on the project and then never hear back from them. Which is fine if they decided they no longer wanted to do it or if it was out of their budget or whatever the case may be, but that was a lot of time and effort that I just put in. So I took some time up front, compiled my thoughts and all of the questions that I needed answered in order to provide an informed estimate. And now when people inquire, I can just share the link to the form with them. Highly, highly recommend. This also likely weeds out some people who were just kind of sort of interested in having a project done, but then when they see the form and they know that it will take up, 5 minutes of their time to do it, and they determine that's too long to bother with, those aren't my ideal clients anyways, because I want people who are interested in quality refinished pieces and appreciate the time and detail that is needed to determine what we will be doing with the piece and be willing to pay for it. So if they weren't really sold on it in the first place, that weeds them out because they might not complete the form. Which again is fine and wasn't the intention of introducing the form, but it is a convenient byproduct. Again, saving time, saving energy. So then, in the case that you feel the need to see the piece in person in order to provide an estimate for the project, or if maybe the client just has no idea what direction to go and is giving you full reign of the design plan, we love those, and you need to see the space that it's in to figure out what direction to go, set up your in-home consultation with the client. Always remember to keep your safety in mind and either bring someone with you and have them wait in the car, or at the very least, make sure that you have a system in place so someone knows the address that you're going to, roughly what time you should be finished by, and you check in with them when you're done so they know you're good to go. You never know, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. I also recommend keeping your Find My iPhone on or sharing your location with someone directly so that they can see where you are if needed. Alright, so you're about to head over to the consult and you have no idea what to do. Don't worry, it's gonna go great. But first, let's pack a bag. I have a little bag that is the perfect size. It's one of those smaller Lululemon bags, so I'm not lugging around like a whole big shopping bag with me when I come in, but I can have everything that I'll need. So here's what I typically ensure that I have in the bag. I have a notebook and 2 pens in case one dies, a measuring tape so that I can write down the dimensions of the piece and any other relevant details like the size of the space it's in, or if you offer delivery, then this will let you know if the piece would fit into your vehicle too, because presumably you know what the maximum dimensions are that fit into your vehicle. I also bring paint stick swatches that I've made and any paint brand decks that I have from brands for paint color selection. So I have ones that I've made on tongue dispensers, I think they're called, like the thing that the doctors put on your tongue and you go like, when you're at the doctor's office. I bought like a 500 pack of those off of Amazon years ago, and every time I get a new color that I've never worked with before, I just make a paint swatch, write the paint name, like the name of the color and the brand name on it, and then I keep those handy so that I always have those swatches to show my clients. But then I also have a fan deck for Fusion mineral paint because it's one that I often use, and they have their whole paint selection in there as well as some custom colors that we could make up. So they're great to have to give you a visual idea of what your options are, and they're typically a little bit more true to color than pieces that you're seeing online or swatches online. Whoa, did I just go through puberty? That was a weird voice crack. Anyway, you also want to take note of and mark down any repairs that may be needed to get done on the piece, because you'll want to factor that into your estimate because presumably that will be added time. So then also in the bag, my phone, fully charged or with like a lot of charge, is always with me for safety reasons, as well as having access to my social media or my website with photos of other pieces that I've done in the colors that I've done them in. If I want to show the client an example of a color in action, so I can look up any measurement conversion charts if needed, or Google anything unique about a piece that I've never encountered before, as well as take my own photos of the piece from all of the angles that I need so that I can look back on them later when I'm planning things out. I always recommend taking more photos than you think you'll need and make sure you get it from different angles. It'll just help you in the long run. Better to have too many than too few. I also bring some fresh, minty kind of gum and throw a piece in before going into the person's house, or sometimes mints because I don't want to be like sapping on my gum, you know? But that's just in case I have bad breath, because you're typically standing in close range to the client as you're checking out the piece and chit-chatting and making a plan. I also bring a mask in case the client is more comfortable with me wearing that when I'm in there, in case they're nervous about COVID or whatever else. And I always bring a water bottle because I'll be talking a lot and I don't want my throat to get hoarse, or if I start coughing or something and need to take a drink of water, I don't have to rely on the client to grab some or anything like that. I'm just prepared. I also make sure that I have a hair tie if I'm wearing my hair down that day, and I always bring some extra business cards that I can provide them if they'd like, and then I also throw my car keys in there because I don't typically bring my purse in. There's not really ever any need to, any purpose that I would need it in there. And then when you're there with the client and discussing the direction that you're going to go with the piece, make sure to write everything you agree on while you're there, or do most of it while you're there and the rest when you get back out to the car, worst case scenario. Don't assume that you'll remember because if you aren't starting the project for a while, you might forget, or if you have a memory like mine, you'll probably forget 50% of it by the time you get home. And you don't want to have to ask the client again because they will probably remember even less than you, since this is likely not a language that they speak often and they're making a lot of decisions. So be the professional and take the time to write down the decisions that you guys land on, as well as things like the dimensions and any dates that you might have set in stone for it to be dropped off to you, or maybe the due date for its completion. I also like to draw out a rough little sketch of the piece and then specify which colors we're doing on what parts of the piece, if it's something like a two-toned piece, or we're painting some parts or leaving others wood, stuff like that. And as a rule of thumb with custom work, assume nothing when working on someone else's piece. I highly recommend double checking literally everything, or getting specific clarification on all aspects of the project, because the expectations might be different for you and the client. For example, if you're painting someone's vintage piece and you don't know whether or not to paint the back of it, you might normally paint the backs of your pieces and think, of course I'm going to do it for this one too. But just ask beforehand. You never know if they really wanted to keep maybe the maker's stamp on the back exposed, or maybe there's some marking on there or something that's super sentimental to them or their family, or holds some type of history. I had a client recently who had, I think it was in the drawer or something, they had used it as a little shooting target or something when they were young, it was their brother had used it. So anyways, there's some history there, and I like to preserve those things whenever possible, unless of course the client just insists on getting rid of it, but always ask. Like they say, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, so again, err on the side of caution and get those details answered up front. I also often use a wood salve on the wood to moisturize it, especially with the drawer bottoms and sides and slides. So I will always ask clients ahead of time if that's okay to use. It does have a light orange scent, which most people are usually fine with, and by the time it gets to them, the scent likely would have dissipated anyways. But some people have sensitivities to scents, so I always like to ask. It also doesn't hurt to write down all the questions that you have and need answered when you're at the consult beforehand, and then just go through the list when you're there with the client and write everything down. So now that you're back from your in-home consultation, and it went fabulously because you were so well prepared with your little kit of necessities and you landed on some action steps for moving forward with your client, something I often do is a little rough mock-up of the piece. On Canva, I'll create a little vision board with the original photo of the piece, a swatch of the paint or stain color that we're going to be using that I can grab online, a photo of the hardware, and anything else that we will do, and put it together to send to the client to make sure it is what they had in mind. This makes it easy if you have multiple styles or types of hardware you're trying to decide between, or maybe drawer liners, because you can duplicate the pages and then just switch out the photo of the hardware or the liner in each of them, so that there's a separate mock-up or mood board for each, so that the client can get a visual idea of what it would all look like together. Then, based on the hardware or liner or whatever that the client chooses, I'll research the price of it and then factor that in price-wise, and then we'll send them an estimate for the project. I always use QuickBooks to track my income, expenses, mileage, and send out invoices with project estimates, just so that I can keep everything in one centralized place, and I love it. I've been using it for quite a while now. I'll leave a link in the show notes of this episode if you want to try it out. I use QuickBooks Self-Employed specifically, and it's met the mark for me for probably the last year and a half-ish, and it's pretty affordable. I think I pay $12 a month, which is great in my opinion for peace of mind and having everything stored in one place, a record of all the receipts and expenses and everything, and then it kind of just puts it all together when it's tax season and makes it really quick and easy to file your taxes. So again, there's a link down in the show notes if you're interested in trying it out. In terms of other systems, I recommend you choose and use one that will work for you to keep custom projects on track. Having a system for letting you know what step comes next and ensuring that you're doing what you agreed on with the client is vital. And because I can sometimes get projects set up in my queue and I may not be actually working on them for a couple of months depending on my waitlist length, And so this just makes sure that I have quick access to all of the details that I need. It can also get confusing when I have an influx of custom inquiries and I'm sending out multiple estimates a day. And I certainly don't ever want to forget about a custom that I have upcoming. So I use Asana for project management to keep me on track and feeling productive as I work through things and get them checked off my list. But as I mentioned in my previous episode, I will be switching that over to Notion soon, as it's the PM software that I use for most other things. So I want to get that all consolidated in one place. Again, I'll link those below. And then my last recommendation is to keep clients informed throughout the process while you are working on their pieces by sending updates on what stage you're at and sending progress photos as well if they want them. Some people may not really care and just want to know when it's done and see it then, but some people appreciate the updates. Again, some of these pieces are really sentimental and have maybe been passed through families for, I was going to say centuries, but I meant generations, but maybe centuries. Depends how old it is. And so some people have a lot of attachment to those pieces and they've been in their home forever. So, they want to know that they're being treated with care and get updates and see where they're at. And it's an exciting time for them. It also helps to show them that things are progressing so that they get an idea of where you are in your timeline in terms of completion. And something you may not know about me, I love little motivational messages. They always get me fired up, and I keep a running list of ones that are especially catchy or speak to me in the Notes app on my phone. So I'm going to end every podcast episode with one of these that I've noted down over the years in hopes that you leave our time here each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to take on whatever comes your way this week. So this week's Mel's motivational message is, if you're too busy to build good systems, then you'll always be too busy. If you're too busy to build good systems, then you'll always be too busy. Think about that. You might think that you are so busy and things are so chaotic in your business and you're just working so hard day to day to keep things rolling and keep them moving forward and to try to grow. But if your goal is to grow, this is the most time you're ever going to have. And it might not feel like it, because you might not have those systems set up. You might be popping from one thing to another, doing admin to going to high-level thinking and planning, and then working on a piece and then working on another piece and not really have any rhyme or reason to what you're doing. And I have been there as well. Sometimes I still am. Depends on the day. But taking a step back, and what really helps me is kind of looking at my buckets of what I do with my time when it comes to my business or anything else in life, really. And I look at what I'm spending my time on, what's taking up the most time, and if there's any way that I can help streamline that. Again, usually you're going to have to put some time up front to create the thing or set up the project management software or the custom intake form, and those things might require a little bit of research on how to get it done. You might have an idea of, oh, this thing would really help me out, but I don't know if the technology exists or anyone's done something similar, so you might need to do some research up front. But find a day when you're feeling like you have some good brain power, allocate some time, throw your phone away, put it away in a drawer in another room so you don't get distracted, and just sit down and take that time to really create those systems. The earlier the better, even if you feel like you're not all that busy, but you see that there's some way that you can streamline some of your time. Do it now and you will thank yourself so much later. Because things will get busier. We have our ebbs and flows in our business throughout the year, and you'll just save yourself the stress, the time, the effort, the potential burnout that could come from a busy season of life. So take the time, build those good systems, because otherwise you never will. It's the sad truth. And I'm sure if you look at your life more generally, you can see where you've maybe skipped making those systems if it comes to meal prepping or organizing that junk room that you have, or not creating a good morning or night routine and just having it be all chaotic, not knowing where anything is, rushing around. If you feel like you're living your life on hyper speed and like you're just constantly in a flurry, this could be a really good thing to take a step back, sit down, do some planning, set up some systems, and help out your future self, because you need to stop living like you're on fire. We all do it. We all know we shouldn't have to, but we never take the time to really allocate that energy to creating systems that work for us because everybody is different. Everybody's brain works different. Everyone is motivated by different things. So take some time, do some reflection. You can make it a family project because a system that works for your partner may not be the system that works for you or for your kids. So take that time and sit down as a family and figure out what you can do in those areas that you are putting a bit of a red flag and saying, we need to do something about this. Because if you're too busy to build good systems, then you'll always be too busy. And I know you want to have that time to sit back, relax, enjoy your time with your family, your friends, yourself. Have some quiet time to reflect and to grow and to nurture yourself and the people around you. So take the time, do it right, and I promise you, you will thank yourself 6 months down the road, 3 months down the road. The next day, the next year, you'll look back and you'll be like, thank God I just got off my ass and did it. If you are enjoying the podcast so far, I would love if you would go to the podcast page on whatever platform that you're listening on today and leave a rating, preferably 5 stars, but I will leave that part up to you. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Tell us what you love about the podcast. Tell us why you show back up every week to listen. It's super helpful to get the podcast shown to people who haven't seen it before, who are interested in joining us on this furniture refinishing ride. That's how the algorithms know to send it out and that we're doing good things over here and sharing awesome knowledge, motivating others, getting shit done. All right, that's it for now. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys next week.